Okay, so I'm going to go over how to export here. Now, I want you guys to export in two different ways. Okay, you're going to export as a movie and as an animated GIF. Okay, the first thing I want you to do when you do this is to go into image size. I want you to the um, drop the height of your image to 1920 pixels, okay? What that's going to do, if you set that up correctly, is create a frame that is the same size as an HD television, okay? We can also drop the DPI down to whoops. We want to uncheck that and then go down to 72. Like that. Okay, so now I have my thing. My image is 1920 by 1080, 72 DPI. Okay, I'm going to play it just to make sure it got what I want there. Looks good. Now I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to export render video. Now you saw that didn't work earlier for me. If it crashes make sure you save before you try to export these. If it crashes, what you need to do is you need to open up Adobe Media Encoder. All right. Now hopefully it won't crash, but that's how I fixed mine. I just opened that up. I didn't do anything with it. I just opened it and then went back to Photoshop. Now, in the video export dialog box, you can title it here. Make sure you put your name in there. Davis animated collage. Okay. You can select where it's going to go right here. I'm going to leave mine at desktop. Down in this next section, you want to make sure that is Adobe Media Encoder. Format is H.264. Size is important. If you haven't changed it, then you need to cancel, go back and change your size. But document size, that should be 1080 by 1920. Frame rate is 30 frames, it's fine. Once you got all that set up, the rest of the stuff, just leave it as it is. Make sure it says all frames, and then hit render. That's going to render that out, and you'll have this little box here. And then that's going to show up on your desktop as an MP4, which you can then play by highlighting and clicking with your mouse. Now, that's just going to play through it once, but that's okay. That's what we want there. Okay, now that's my first export. I'm going to go back and save. My second export is an animated GIF. All right, we're doing this because I want you guys to learn this process. It's important for the augmented reality project, okay? Now, in order to export as an animated GIF, I'll talk more about what an animated GIF is, but it's a legacy format. And there's a few things it does that is unique to that format. So I'm going to go to File, Export. Now I have to go to Save for Web Legacy. Okay, that's the only place that's going to go. Okay, so now we're in the Save for Web. This is the old version of Save for Web. So what we have here is kind of a little worksheet to go through. First thing I'm going to do is make it so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to come down here to this little box, and I'm going to click on Fit in View, and that gives me a view of my entire GIF, or my entire Photoshop file. So we're going to work our way through this up here and kind of look and see what a few of these things do. When you open this for the first time, it might be set on PNG, something like that, or JPEG. What you want to do is you want to go through and the first thing you want to do is GIF 128 dithered. Okay. A GIF is a file that allows us to loop an animation seamlessly, and it plays on the web. So when I do that, it sets all this to the preset. I can come over here underneath my image, and I can see a representation of the size of the image. Okay. Now, if you're on the web, 11.29 megabytes is too big. Okay, it'll take forever to load. We want to get this down to 1 or 2 megabytes. Okay, it's important. So the first thing I'm going to do is come over here. Here's my image size. Remember, it's 1080 by 1920. It's what I set the Photoshop file to. My animated GIF does not need to be that big. Okay, that's too big for a GIF or GIF. If I'm annoying you by saying GIF or GIF, they're interchangeable to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this percentage window. First thing is what I'm going to do. Okay, and that's going to change the finished size. So I'm going to drop that down to about, let's try 35%. Okay, now I did that. If I click outside of that, you're going to see it changes size here. And now I'm down to 1.81 megabytes. Much bigger size, much better size. My height is now 672 pixels by 378. Now, there are other ways I can adjust this. On some of your files, that may still be pretty big. You can play with this percentage and look over here. So what that's doing is throwing out a bunch of pixels. But I can come up here and I can play with these settings as well. And you'll just have to kind of experiment to see what does it. If I said no dither, then I get 1.40. So dithering is something that allows the things to blend together. If you look at this little color table here, GIF is such an old format that it only uses very limited color palette in order to keep files down, because GIF was the only way to make things move back in Web 1.0. Okay, it's essentially a sequence of images put together. Now I have 128 colors. So if I drop this down to GIF 64, you're going to see I have fewer colors. It's dithered, so it's at 1.44. Let's drop down to no dither and see what happens. 1.06. Okay, once I have that set up, I'm going to go to save, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to save this as Davis collage 64 no dither. That way I can know what it is. Save it. There it is. Okay, now you're going to see this is going to look a little bit worse, right? You get a little bit of color. So I have a lot of variations in my color, a lot of smooth variations. So I've dropped that quality down. So the quality is not nearly as good as it will be in the, well, it's not actually that much worse, is it? Okay, well, that's good. I got my size way down without changing the quality too much. You have to do this to look at it, okay, and to kind of judge about the quality. It's a process. There's no simple thing. It has to do with what your images are, how they're animated, how many frames you have. If we had no limit on file size, we'd do a perfect representation of it every time, okay? But we do. A little tip, to look at an animated GIF that's just on the desktop, highlight it and hit the space bar. If you double click it, it's going to open up like this, and you won't know what's going on. What that does is that gives you each frame of the GIF, okay? Now, one other thing, so in the export Save for Web Legacy, you need to make sure down here on the bottom, the animation, you need to set the looping option to forever. Okay, so you're able to set that. It only loops once, it loops forever, it loops 10 times. You can adjust that, but generally we want these to loop forever. Okay, so make sure that's set to loop forever before you export it. So when you turn these in next week, you need to upload them to the folder that I've given you as a video and as an animated GIF. And then I'll explain how this ties into the next project, this animated GIF process. Any questions while I'm still recording? Anybody? Okay. Stop the recording.